Hey, deserving listeners, it's time to continue watching Mike and Natalie's journey on 90 Day Fiancé. Let's get to the show. My name is Dr. Kirk Honda. I'm a therapist and a professor. Let's see if anything of interest comes out of my face.
What have you been doing this last week?
You mean was I thinking about us?
Sure.
No.
You know, we just didn't leave on good terms when I left you, so I don't know. I've just been thinking about that a lot.
I don't want to think on it. Do you have anything to say about it?
Yeah, there's a lot to talk about it, don't you think?
No, I don't think.
All right, so it appears that for her, Natalie, she just wants to move on. She doesn't want to talk about the conflict. She wants to return to the good parts of their relationship and return to goodness, if you will. And she's saying, no, I don't want to talk about it. I think we should just move forward. There's nothing wrong with that. There's some positives to that, but there's some negatives, obviously, pros and cons. For him, he says he wants to talk about it. So what do they do here? Now, if he wants to talk about it, then if I were there, and sometimes this happens in therapy, couples come in, one person is just like, I don't really feel like there's anything to talk about this week, and the other person is, really? There's all sorts of things to talk about. Then I would turn to the person who wants to talk about things, and I would say, okay, what do you want to talk about? And then if they said to me, well, there's a lot of things to talk about, I would say, well, let's start from the beginning. And I would try to get them to tell me what's going on for them and what are their primary emotions and their attachment injuries that have occurred, because usually that's what they want to talk about. And for him, he is now in this position where he has to do that. He has to say, okay, well, I want to talk about it, and here's what I want to talk about. But that's not his attachment style, at least what we've seen exhibited on the show. The pattern we've seen from him is more of a standoffish. In attachment injury and attachment insecurity, he tends to go away, and he tends to be very blank and sort of depressed / disappointed. You know, he just kind of is just like, well, I don't know. And what he's, I think, hoping is that through that body language and through his standoffishness, that she will know what he's thinking, know what he's feeling. But that isn't an effective way of communicating what you're thinking and feeling. What I would hope for is for him to say, if he wants to improve the relationship, which is up in the air. I mean, we don't know if he actually wants to improve the relationship or not. But if he wants to improve the relationship, then he might say something like, so I just want to talk about the fact that when you were asked if you loved me, you didn't say yes, which is essentially saying no. And that really hurt my feelings. And it really made me worried about our future together, because I was in love with you, and I think I still am, but it's terrifying to think that you don't love me, because I'm going to move forward with all these things like the K-1 visa, and then I'm going to be responsible for you for 10 years if it doesn't work out between us. And I don't even know if you love me. That's just too much for me at this point. And it also just really hurts, because I thought you did love me. And I'm not used to being vulnerable like that and to be rejected like that. It was just really hurtful. You know, something along those lines, right? Or whatever else he's feeling. I don't really know what he's feeling. I'm guessing that's what the general gist of what he's feeling is. And in couples therapy, there's a lot of times where one or both members have a really hard time getting to those emotions, and so it takes me a while to help them to get there. And two, it's hard for them to communicate that because, one, they might not have literally ever seen it happen in their life. It's not uncommon for people, you know, the way I talk about the way you're supposed to talk with your partners, for many people, they've never heard someone communicate that way. And some of you email me in this way. There's like the things that you're talking about and the way that you suggest people talk to each other. I've never heard anyone communicate like that in my life, particularly if you grew up in a family where there was a lot of chaos and attachment injuries and abuse and mistreatment. Then your parents aren't going to talk that way, your friends aren't going to talk that way, your partners aren't going to talk that way. If you have any mentors, they're not talking that way. And if you've never been in therapy or your therapist doesn't really lean in this relational direction, then they don't talk that way. And when you hear it out loud, you're just like, oh, that sounds like a better way of communicating. And so it's important that we have these models out there. And while I'm on this soapbox, there's a lot of things we can cover in education for children and teenagers, right? We can cover math. Math is good. We can cover biology and physics and chemistry and history and political science and language and foreign languages, health. We can cover all those things. How about we also spend an equal amount of time on what I'm talking about right here? Not only attachment, but also how to deal with your mental health, how to deal with your needs, how to know your needs, how to know your emotions, how to regulate your emotions, how to ask for help, how to get help, how to accept help, how to give help, how to listen to people. We could improve so many things, not only just relationships, but parenting. How many of you have parents or grandparents who had so much conflict that it ruined the marriage and also affected you as children? You're watching your parents fight all the time, and or your parents have some past relational trauma that's, hanging them up in terms of parenting you. They're not able to really parent you in a way that it meets your needs as a young child. And then you have issues that you have to struggle with, and then you have issues with your children. And the cycle just goes, just the pattern just gets passed down through the generations. And with this kind of education in public schools, we could reduce it. And I, don't take my word for it. Research shows this, that when you teach people at various different points, so you teach a teenager about typical teenage emotional attachment needs. You teach young parents about how to get along as a couple and also how to attach well to your children. You teach young children how to talk about their emotions, and you help the parents and the children work together on that. There's various different things that you do throughout the lifespan that have been shown by science to improve many outcomes. Dropout rate from high school, addiction rates, crime rates, poverty rates, unhappiness rates, depression rates, all sorts of things that we lament as a part of our society, and yet we do basically nothing to combat it. It'd be like we have frequent floods that just come into a city, and we just throw our hands up and go, I don't know what to do. I mean, it's just the way it is. I don't know. Who can fix that? All of us would say, well, obviously we should be spending tax dollars to build some kind of wall, seawall or something to protect the city from frequent flooding. Frequent flooding, I almost said. I would hope for him that he can get to his emotions, communicate it. Let's see what he does.
You can talk.
You don't think nothing about it?
You can talk.
I'm trying to talk to you about it.
Right. This is another point I wanted to say, which is that given his attachment injury, total speculation, he has a really hard time being vulnerable. And he's shown this up until this point. So he really wants to talk about it, but his style is to prompt someone else so that they can talk and he can just bask in their love. That's what he's hoping for, I'm guessing. And he doesn't have to be vulnerable. So he keeps saying, she's saying, I want to move on. And he's saying, well, I think we should talk about it. And she's like, okay, what do you want to talk about? And he's like, well, what do you want to talk about? And she's like, I don't know. You're the one who said you want to talk. Well, I'm trying to talk about it. It's like, talk about it then. Say from your mouth what is going on in your heart. Don't just sit there and say, well, you're supposed to guess what's going on in my mind. Now, I get it, because when you were taught that vulnerability meant bad things, then it's going to be really hard. But this style of communication is pretty frustrating to people on Natalie's side, because you're like, okay, you want to talk? Then talk. Like, what's on your mind? What's going on? Tell me, why should I be the one that has to carry every conversation? Let's rewind and watch it again.
Do you have anything to say about it?
Yeah, there's a lot to talk about it, don't you think?
No, I don't think. You can talk.
You don't think nothing about it?
You can talk.
I'm trying to talk to you about it. Oh, yeah. I don't know. I've had a real tough week since I've been back. So, do you love me or what?
Do you still love me?
Okay, so good. So he got to the crux of the matter. I think that is the main thing that he wants to talk about. I wish he would have led a little bit with his feelings in terms of, I'm worried that you don't love me, and I'm hurt when you said you didn't love me. Now, from the beginning, I've been saying there's nothing wrong with not being in love in the beginning of a dating relationship. And she has a viable narrative, which is, well, I don't love him now because we just met. But I definitely see a possibility of loving him in the future. I see a lot of potential in our relationship. So he asks, do you love me? And then she responds with, do you still love me? And they do a lot of this to each other, which is, I gave this analogy early in my career. I remember maybe I was an intern, and I was talking with this couple, and they were like this. And I gave the analogy of they're both in their swim trunks and their bathing suits, and they're on the edge of the pool. And they're holding hands, and they're like, okay, let's jump in at the same time. And they're holding hands, and they're like, okay, 1, 2, 3, and then neither one of them jump. Because they don't want to jump before the other person. They don't want to jump in and have the other person leave them behind, stay behind. They're trying, hey, let's jump at the same time, but they're both doing it to each other, so neither one of them jump. And 3 hours later, the couple is still standing on the edge of the pool going, so are you going to go? Well, are you going to go? Well, I'm not going to go unless you go. Well, I'm not going to go unless you go. And that's not a viable way of being in a relationship. You have to take that leap. You have to. Now, if you don't like someone enough to take that leap, if you don't trust someone enough to take that leap, fine. But if you're going to try at a relationship, you have to take that leap. It's just, and sometimes you're the one that has to do it first. Sometimes you're the one that has to say, okay, honey, I'm going to jump in, and I hope you follow me because I'm jumping, because I need to go. I need this, and I really hope you follow up with jumping in with me or right after me, because we can have a great time in this pool. And so they're doing that to each other. So her answering a very, very important question with a question is not helpful. Now, either one of them could take the leap. So for him right now, he could say, yes, I do love you. Do you love me? So that would be his version of, okay, fine, I'll jump in the pool. Yes, I do love you. Okay, I'm in the pool. Do you love me? Do you want to jump in? And for her, it would be to say yes, or some version of like, look, it's not that I don't love you. It's that I know in the future I'm going to have more feelings for you. And I already have a lot of feelings for you. And I don't call it love yet, but it's growing. I'm like, 50% to love. And, maybe there's a version that would inspire him. So let's see who takes the leap, or if both of them stand on the edge of the pool.
Do you love me or what?
Do you still love me?
I'm asking you, do you love me?
No, you answer first.
I've always loved you, Natalie, but right now, I don't know.
All right. So he did hey, you jump in the pool. No, you jump in the pool. No, you jump in the pool. No, you jump in the pool. Okay, fine. I'll put my foot in the pool. So he's starting the ball rolling. Let's see if she reciprocates.
Kind of cut me deep.
Did you cut me really deep? I have my view, and it's different from yours.
Mm-hmm.
I did nothing bad to you.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing. Only because I gave you the ring, I had my reasons. And you know.
How did I cut you?
Many moments that happened behind the screen. Like when they asked me if I love you or no. Before that, few things happened, if you forgot.
All right. According to her, things happened away from the camera, I think is what she meant. And of course, we should all understand that the cameras only pick up a little tiny sliver of probably their overall interactions. So let's see what she's referring to.
And we discussed it with you, why I didn't respond. And you Now, like, instead of being like with me equal, you push me. That's why you have reaction. I had my rights to behave the way I did, but I did nothing wrong towards you. I always was good towards you and on your side.
All right, so it's the beginning of a conversation. I don't know what she's talking about. Maybe he does. Obviously, why would I understand everything that they're talking about? But I hope that they get to what I would think would help, which is when you did this, it hurt me. When you did that, it made me afraid because I love you and I perceived it in the moment as if you didn't care about me. Do you care about me? Can you reassure me that you care about me? Using the analogy of on the edge of the pool, he put his foot in and then she didn't put her foot in and then he pulled his foot out and now they're back on the side of the pool again. It's up to them, of course, but when I work with couples like this, I say, what's the goal? Why are you here in my office? Because there's a lot of different reasons why people go to couples therapy. If they are here in my office, if a couple comes to me to better their relationship, to make it stronger, to reduce their conflict, to have more satisfaction, then I'll just tell them, someone's got to jump. Someone has to take that leap. It'd be best if you both took that leap together, but it's up to you. You don't have to take that leap. I understand why you don't trust each other. I understand why you're afraid, but you have to give. You have to give love to create love. Give love to get love. You both can't wait for the other person to give, because if you are both doing that, nothing is going to happen. Now, you can give love, you can give vulnerability, you can give trust, you can give goodwill, you can give information, you can give the benefit of the doubt, but you have to give. And when both people are giving, great. When both people are not giving, then we're at a standstill and nothing's going to work. I lay it out for people and I say, it's your choice. I'm not saying you're supposed to. I'm saying, here is your choice, A or B. Stand on the edge of the pool and nothing ever changes, or take a leap and hope the other person takes a leap with you. I'm guessing if either one of them were to be vulnerable in this moment and say, and he was kind of vulnerable. So, like I said, he sort of put his foot into the pool. He could have been more vulnerable. Like he keeps saying, you know what you did. You know what you did. And she keeps saying, you know what you did. It's like, how about you talk about it? Say, when you did this, it made me feel this way. Maybe they'll get there. Let's see what happens.
You have to be more stronger. I want you to be more responsible, more...
I think I am beyond responsible right now. And I need you to be more serious.
The difference between you and me, I admit when I'm wrong. I admit
so do
and
I.
I improve and change. You
So-
never admit
so do
when
I.
you're wrong.
So do
and
I.
you always continue, pretend like you're such a...
Yikes. So now they're just attacking each other. This is disappointing for them. It's hard to watch. I suspect that if they could get to a good place, that they would actually have a good time together. But so now she's saying that essentially he's a bad person who acts like a good person. That's what she's saying. And essentially she's saying, you don't apologize. You never take responsibility. He's saying, yes, I do take responsibility. He's saying to her, you need to stop acting like a child. I'm not exactly sure what he's referring to in this moment. There's nothing wrong with having a request, but I think fundamentally they have to establish that they're in a relationship. I don't think either one of them has the answer to that question. I don't think they've answered it to themselves or to each other. Are we in a relationship? Because if you're not in a relationship, then neither one of them have any reason to extend themselves. So that's what I would want to know from them, is like, so are you guys together or are you broken up? Because sometimes couples will have these kinds of conversations in my office in the midst of uncertainty in that area. And not only as a therapist is it just really important for me to understand like where they stand, but also they need to understand where they stand. Because without that understanding of like, yes, we are both in a relationship, then there's no reason to work on anything. When people break up, they usually don't try to improve their relationship, right? So she threw the ring in the suitcase, and I think to him that meant, I guess we're done. And she said she's not in love with him. And I think to him that means, I guess we're done. He was very standoffish to her. And I think to her, she's thinking, oh, well, I guess he's done. If I were there, I'd be like, well, okay, great. You have some complaints about each other. That's fine. We can get to that. But are you in a relationship or not?
Everything, and I play this role. You're so good. You're so great, and just like that. I'm just tired of this.
We have disagreements. You're absolutely right.
No, it's hard for me to rely on you and go to America for a man who I cannot even trust. I will not do this. I don't trust you, and you know it.
Perfect. Okay. All right.
So, yeah, it sounds like they are breaking up. That's what they're telling each other. She says, I can't trust you. You are a bad person, but act like a good person. You're irresponsible. I can't rely on you. Essentially, I don't want to be with you. And now I guess he has his answer. So I'm guessing he's going to say, well, I guess it's over.
Wait, what trust issues? What happened off camera?
I don't know what's honestly going through her head, I'm going to talk to you later then, okay? Because, it's just not working out right now. All right, bye. I'm not doing it no more. She's driving me nuts.
So we see the pain, we see the hurt, we see the tears building up. We see him turn away, I think in shame of showing emotion, which all of us have been taught that tears are shameful and weak and childish and silly, particularly men. And if he, from the very beginning, had a highway from his emotions to his mouth to the other person of, here is how I feel, I'm guessing she would have seen that, Natalie, and taken care of him in that moment. But it's all backed up somewhere. There's probably several different roadblocks from his pain when she hurt him to noticing it, to saying it. And what that does is, the way he deals with it, the way he tries to communicate about his hurt is to pull away, withdraw, and become very blank and very quietly disappointed, which hurts her, and then it's just a vicious cycle, and they're just hurting each other. So now I know that they're on the next season of 90 Day Fiancé, so they must have worked it out at some point. It's hard to imagine, but let's continue watching.
I really don't care, bro. Relationship.
All right, well, that does it for that episode of Psychology in Seattle. Everyone out there, please take care of yourself. Take care of others because we all deserve it. We really, really do.